Please, no errors. Yay!
Good evening.
Hey, Scott. I had to invite you twice because there was some error when I started the broadcast. And
Okay. What's been really weird is I got into the other one and you weren't there.
Yeah, I had to end it because there was an error. Like it said, the recording didn't set up properly. So at least I got an error this time.
Yes, that's good, so that you're prepared. So, who else you got coming tonight? Do you know?
I invited Tim and Marnie and Rose, and I actually invited my circle, so I don't know who's gonna come in.
This will be a very good topic. And
yeah. You have your daughters are in their 20s, right?
yes.
Yeah. Did you ever hear of 5-HTP?
HTTP 5?
I think it's 5-HTP.
No, I haven't.
It's a natural herb. HTP. Yeah, it's 5. It's to help with mood.
Okay.
Because I think there's something wrong with my damn it. I think the serotonin levels are messed up.
Could be.
Yeah, so I heard that, and the lady at the natural food store said, you shouldn't take this if you're on Prozac. I said, first of all, I don't need to be on Prozac. I'm not depressed. And second of all, I'm taking this because I don't want to take drugs. So why would anybody take chemicals and natural herbs at the same time?
Some people are stupid.
You do either or, you don't do both. I don't understand.
I have a lady I work with. She had all her fillings and everything pulled out because she was afraid of the mercury that was in the fillings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was just convinced that was causing all her health problems. And after that, she still had all the exact same health problems.
That's funny.
And now all she eats is red beef.
Wait, she eats why?
She's on a diet of just that.
That's a horrible diet.
I know.
What is wrong with her?
She's going to these holistic doctors.
I don't know about that.
I agree.
I am so against red meat to begin with, and to only eat that is absurd.
Yeah. I'm down. I usually only have red meat about once a week or so.
Yeah, well, it's all about, portion
It's
control.
balance. Balance. Yeah.
Yeah, serotonin. I think my levels are all messed up.
Okay.
But it says it helps fight obesity. I don't have obesity. And depression, it's not...
Where can I get it?
It actually helps with a whole bunch of things. Wow.
Yeah. Once spring break's over and I start running again, my belly will go away pretty quick.
Well, it's the winter. A lot of people let themselves go because it's the winter, and then March comes and then you start working out. And, get your body back.
Exactly. I expect to be 20 pounds lighter by midsummer.
Nice. Yeah, you can do it. I mean, the average person loses about 2 pounds a week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 pounds a month. Yeah, the average, but when I go on, when I was on my diet to lose all that baby weight, I was losing much more than that.
Well, and it also depends on your original size, how much you can drop and how fast too.
Oh yeah, see that's the thing. When I diet, it just all comes off.
Yeah. But I've got twice the body mass that you do, so I can drop a little quicker than you two can safely.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't exercising. I was just dieting. So if I would have exercised, it would have been even quicker.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, is start running again.
Yeah, that's the best, especially outdoors. Not
Yes.
not on a treadmill.
I hate treadmill running. I've tried it. I can't stand it. It just doesn't feel right.
It's hard on your knees. It's the worst thing for you, actually. It's not good. All you need is an elliptical. That's what I use. It's sitting right there waiting for me to use.
Yeah.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, I'll be out hitting the streets late at night again.
Oh, that's good. You feel better. You really do.
Yes, I do.
Get those national
Sleep better, feel better, ache less.
I feel so much better when I work out, yet I don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is in 2005, I was going to the gym like 4 times a week. I had a trainer because I used to teach at a high school, and he was giving me, he was training me for like an hour every day just because he didn't have anything better to do between the time that I was there, because there was like nobody at the gym because there was like a break or whatever. Right. So he was helping me, and I would go on the bike for to warm up for like 8 minutes. And then I would lift weights. It was just like an hour to 2 hour session, like every single time I went. I was doing the yoga ball, everything. I've never looked so good in my life. Yet I felt so good. I didn't, because I get tension headaches a lot. I didn't have any tension headaches. Yet I just don't do it.
Yeah. And then Steve knocks you up, and your body goes to pot.
Yeah, that's basically. Yeah. I told him, you're gonna give me that boy. If it's the last thing you do, guys. I just want a boy. He doesn't want a boy. See, Kaylee's like a boy, so what's the difference? She'll
eventually outgrow that.
No, I don't think so. She's. I can see her being a tomboy. I really can.
Could be, yeah.
She loves cars. She's really not into dolls, even though I try to get. She really, I think B likes the dolls more than she does. Loves to be outside, loves playing in dirt, loves being dirty, loves doing anything and everything. She would sleep outside. She knocked the screen out of Steve's bedroom, the bedroom window up there. And that was real great because, she could have got hurt, but she just wants to be outside. She pushed that.
Yeah. Second floor, right?
Yeah, we were there. Steve was, he came up to the room, and she was like, she was hitting, because I was right there, and I saw her, hitting the screen, so it must have happened, between the time I saw her and maybe, 30 seconds after Steve walked up, and I don't know what the hell, but, yeah, now the weather's warmer, so now she can play outside. That's
exactly. That's what it is here. The weather's warmer, so I can get out and run again.
Yeah, that's why people let their weight go, because, you can't do anything outside, and... having the equipment in your house, you have no motivation. You don't use it.
And like I said, I've tried running on a treadmill. I hate it. Well,
the elliptical is so much better. Yeah. But I really think that I used to go to the gym, and then I would tan. I would go on my lunch break when I was teaching. Yeah. And I would do the elliptical for 20 minutes, and then I would tan. For like 5 times a week. Yeah. And I felt really good. So I think I have to leave the house to do it, because it's just not, you can have the most fanciest equipment in your house, thousands and thousands of dollars, and you still won't use it because it's in your house. And you have any time to do it, and that time never comes.
Right. And it's one of those, you've got to schedule yourself, and that's part of what I did last year to make it happen.
Yeah, you have to make time for it, every day, the same time.
Right. Hi, Hatham.
Hello. Welcome. Goodbye.
I was hoping a few more would come so we could have a good, interesting discussion.
I don't know where anybody is. It's Wednesday. It's not like it's Friday.
Right. Well, I have another topic for you for Sex, Love, and Lies.
Oh, do you? Well, don't say
You
it.
know,
I think
yeah,
you can hear it. I think
yeah.
people can watch. I'm really not sure. I think only we can. No, I posted to my circle, so I think everybody in my circles can see this now.
Right, if they want to. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, anyone in your circle should be able to watch Hangout. That's definitely true.
Where is everybody? I'm about to go. No, Steve can't come in. He has to put the kids to bed.
Yeah.
Damn it. Wait, I think he commented on the post I made about the show.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, Rose said she's going to be here in 5 minutes, which was 6
Okay,
minutes
good.
ago. Oh, she's offline. Yeah.
Hi, Hatham.
Do you have a camera? Yeah, I think I deleted that post.
Yeah, I knew you were talking about it this morning, so.
Yeah, I did delete it. He might have commented on it, the one I deleted.
Yes.
Do you know who runs Google at a glance?
No, I don't.
Oh, wait, I think I do know. Oh, I do. Oh man, that's, his last name is Hanlon, and he looks just like, I swear, he's relative. Every single time, I'm like, are you sure you're not related? Because he really looks like him.
He does.
I'm telling you, he really, there's something, I'm telling you, if you look back on the family tree, he's in there somewhere.
Yeah. He could definitely be a cousin, easily.
I'm telling you that he's definitely.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's just so weird because he came in, I'm like, wait, Hanlon. I'm like, wait, what? And then I really thought that was his cousin, because he has a cousin, I think, with his same name.
Interesting, yeah. It's a small world, it really is.
I found that out many, many times. I forgot his Patrick. No, it's John. That's his grandfather's name.
Okay.
It's weirder, I'm telling you.
I'm sure if you did the right looking, you'd find out there's a second cousin or something.
Man, it's just so freaky. It's, oh. Yeah.
One of the things you can do later on after the show is post a couple links to some sites that could help pregnant teens.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me do.
I've got a couple.
Oh, do you? Because I think only like 15% of parents agree that they should teach abstinence in sex education in schools.
They really need to teach both, and when they teach abstinence, they need to be more than just for any one reason, but because I don't know how much they do talk about the different reasons that abstinence does help, but they also need to give them good information so they can protect themselves.
Yeah, they definitely. Hello, Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Am I echoing today?
No. Are you on your computer?
I am. I'm using the mic. And I
Okay.
work with George.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yes.
Good. I'm happy.
It's nice to see you this evening, Rose, or should I say this afternoon for you?
Correct. Yeah. It's very balmy weather here. It's 29 Celsius and it's raining.
Oh.
So it's like being in the Philippines, somewhat.
Yeah.
I had an interesting, I'm not sure how far into the conversational topic you are. I had an interesting reply to the post that when I reposted the Hangout.
You.
Mhm.
Wait, Rose, you're low.
Oh, it's because I'm speaking so softly. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I just get into my own
Okay.
little world.
I do the same thing.
I had someone reply who has 3 teenage girls
Oh, really?
to my post, and I'm just going to press into find it into the Hangout.
You talking about Karen's or George's post?
No, Karen,
Or comment?
did you read it?
Yeah. I'm reading it.
Oh, wow.
I'm just putting it into here so you can have a look.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
God, these hangouts are killing me today.
okay. So I put that in just as you left, but I'll put it again, so there you are.
Yeah.
Would you like to read that out, Candace, or would you like me to read it?
Oh, yeah. Does she want to? Should I invite her?
She would love to have participated. However, her PCs are in her PC is in the service or something at the workshop. She only has an iPad, and you can't do Hangouts from an iPad. But I'm sure. Is there a link for this to be viewing or not?
I'm going to post it publicly now. I was just waiting for you to come because it was just me and Scott waiting for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm doing that right.
Because what she has is quite valid there. If you'd like to read that out, that's her contribution to this, because she couldn't. I had a private chat with her, asking her if she would like to participate, since she was so knowledgeable and had.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really haven't. There was only one girl who was pregnant when I was at school, and
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the highest teenage pregnancy rate is in the U.S. and U.K., but the U.S. comes in as the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to welcome everyone to Mommy Hangout. And I'm Candace, and we have Rose and Scott joining us today. I'm going to read everyone a really good comment that Karen Pluto made on Rose's page when she shared the Mommy Hangout post about the show. She writes, "There's so much information available to teens these days via parents, youth workers, and the internet that the only cause for teen pregnancy is insecurity or just plain stupidity. Pregnancy is the least of our teenager generation's problems when it comes to sex. They have little or no idea about the STDs that can very well kill them. My 15-year-old daughter knows at least 15 girls and boys that have a pregnancy in their lives. They've shown her what she doesn't want during her teenage years. When my eldest decided to pop her cherry, she came to me 2 weeks before doing so and asked me about the best form of contraception and protection. We even bought the condoms and told her to turn her music up loud so her sister wouldn't hear anything from the next room. I'm a mother of 3 teens. I have to be very informed about these things. If we don't teach our kids, who will?" And that's a great post that she made. Because I feel the same way. That's why I made the post, because I really think that it's up to the parents, to educate their children. And if you walk into any high school, in the United States, it wouldn't be a shock to see anybody that's pregnant, because nowadays it just I don't know. Some people think it's turning into a trend. You know, there's so many different, you know, ways of looking at it, reasons why, and I want to discuss it further because I think that it's a lot of parents out there have teenage daughters. I have a 12-year-old daughter who soon will be 13, and I don't even want to imagine her even having a boyfriend at this age. And
don't they have sex ed there in the US?
It's not available everywhere. It's only in select schools, and there's only 15% of parents that agree with having abstinence taught in sex ed. 15% of parents. I read in an article.
It's part of our education here. I mean, even myself, who went to a convent more than 20 years ago, the nuns even taught sex education there. And it was interesting because the subject, we had question and answer boxes, and that's how things were done in those days. When it came to being pregnant as a result of rape or an unwanted sexual tryst. And the nuns replied with this fashion that if you feel you have been intruded upon, they use the word intruded, you're to proceed directly to your doctor and ask for a curette, not a pregnancy test. Mm-hmm. So that if there's any, it was all double meaning, if there was any chance or that you could become pregnant or are pregnant, then all that question will be removed and you'll never have to know. Mm-hmm. So that was their response. And that was well over 20 years ago that I went to school. And I got my first probably sex ed when I was 12 years old. And then my boys have it at school. And I have 3 teenage boys. And this disturbs me as well because I assume that at least one of them is sexually active, and I have to prepare myself as to whether I want grandchildren or not now. I've always said to my boys, if you plan to have unprotected sex, then plan to have children. If you don't want to have children now, then you must have protected sex. It doesn't matter if the girl says to you she's on the pill or she has something injected into her arm or she has a diaphragm or she's taking whatever, cream, smears, whatever she has. Never trust.
Yeah, they can lie. They can easily lie.
And pregnancy is only part of the issue here. You've got also worried about the sexually transmitted diseases at this point in time. And those do, and the only thing that protects those is the condom, a barrier to keep those things away.
But those can break at any time. Those are
yes.
You need to have other protection other than a condom because that's only part of it.
What some teenage boys and girls don't understand, and maybe probably the boys probably need to realise, is that condoms that are carried around do have an expiration date. They expire. And also they're subject to heat. They can split. If they're expired or if they've been under extreme heat stress. So boys that carry around condoms in their wallets for a long time don't have to expect them to break, but they can, simply because of their age or if the condoms have been left in some temperature of extreme degrees, and it can weaken the integrity of the condom itself. Yeah. And this is where you have a lot of accidents.
Yeah. The other thing is using oil-based instead of water-based lubricants with condoms. That will weaken them too.
Of course it will. So there's a whole lot of information out there, but whether these kids are learned enough to seek it or know where to look is another question. That's why sex education is so important. Yeah. I know I did a post. It sort of was a bit frightening to me. I was speaking to someone about the rights of women and pregnancy. You know, it's such a big thing. But it would also apply to teenagers, I suppose, to children. That the GOP, Kansas GOP wants to tax women for abortion and lie to them. So you have some states that have passed laws that make it okay for a doctor to lie to someone who's pregnant for fear that they may have an abortion. This would be for teenage girls as well. So what's going to happen, I think, is going to increase the death rate of young women, and because welcome back to the coat hanger, abortion, and backyard specialists. And what people don't realise is when someone is pregnant or when a teenager is pregnant, it's the rest of their lives that they're talking about when they pass these laws. And this is in the States. I was amazed to read about this. It was just blew my mind completely. It made me kind of angry because girls have enough problems without having to be sexually pressured into sex. Then once they're pregnant, if they choose not to have this baby, they have to have it. And they're told either they have wind or a gastric problem or whatever. And these laws also exempt the physicians from being sued.
And those are bad laws in and of themselves. My other concern is that some of the states here have safe haven laws, which means that doctors do not have to have parental consent to perform an abortion on a girl under the age of 18, which is a lot more intrusive. I have been having their ears pierced, but in many of those same states, to have an ears pierced, they've got to have parental permission up till 18. And
for tattoos as well.
Yes, and there's a huge difference in the risk factor there between getting your ears pierced or a tattoo and having an abortion.
But that falls under patient-doctor privilege.
Yes.
That's what it falls under, and I'm not sure about the U.S.
Patient-doctor privilege doesn't cover anything else with underage kids, underage children. And
well,
so that's where it becomes a very interesting and unique situation.
So can I ask a question, Candice and
Scott or
Scott,
Jonathan?
Sorry. Jonathan may not be able to answer this one, but when a woman or someone bears a child, do you receive a government subsidy or a grant for having that child?
No. Well, it's government assistance and it's welfare. So if you're not making a lot, then you can get Medicaid, which is health insurance provided from the government. You can get food stamps to pay for your food, and there are even housing programs out there. But it's only for a short amount of time until you're able to get on your
300 million. Here in Australia, a population approaching 25 million. Here, when you have a baby, the government gives you what is called a baby bonus. So the government gives you $4,000 or $5,000 every time you have a baby.
Well, then people are they're gonna start, taking advantage of it and having kids just to get the money. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, if that existed here, then we would have a whole lot more people.
It already happens here a lot of times on those that are perfectly on welfare.
I don't want to touch
that are having the babies simply to get the bonus and then adopting out the children.
That's
so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is
so
awful.
They're purposefully getting pregnant and getting the money and then putting the kids up for adoption. And it's shocking and it's terrible, but these girls are informed in so many ways. So the innocent teenager who happens to get pregnant and who has no idea is one of two things: ill-informed or just stupid, as Karen says. Just plain stupid. And where does that fault lie? With their education system or with the parents?
A lot of them are just plain stupid. I'll give you an example. I was sitting at Starbucks doing homework one night. About 8 high school kids mixed between boys and girls were standing waiting to get their coffee. And I was overhearing their conversation. They were literally talking about by having sex in a hot tub, the girls could not get pregnant.
Oh,
A nurse who was standing there told these girls that they were wrong, and these girls looked at the nurse and said, "You don't know what you're talking about."
no, I'm telling you, I want to talk about why teenagers are getting pregnant. And I'm telling you, it all goes back to the parents. It's a particular style of parenting, and it's basically when you set no rules for your child. You raise them as your friend. And I can tell you, my mom did that with me, and I had my first at 19. She always told me, I'm your friend. I don't want a friend, I want a mom. And when they don't set rules for their kids, they just then you wreak havoc. I mean, it's they're given no motivation. Without rules and boundaries, that they're becoming spoiled and they have low self-esteem. And teenage pregnancy might not even seem wrong to them.
Hey, hey, Candace,
Yeah.
before I go, you're never supposed to be your kid friend. You're supposed to be their parents.
Yeah, I know that. And that's what
Unless they're helping you, unless they're out working and helping you pay your bills.
No, they should never be your friends. Never. It doesn't matter if they're
Well,
helping.
that does change. That does change with age.
It's just a metaphor. A kid would never be able to pay their parents' bills while they're a kid.
But a parent is a teacher. And this is what I think Candace is trying to put forward. Parent is a teacher, always a teacher, by deed as well as by thought.
Yeah.
So, and moral values are passed on that way too. A child needs to be shown, taught, told repeatedly how they should act, how they should speak to people. If you let a child wander in the streets, they won't have any table manners. They won't know to say please and thank you. Not unless they come into contact with someone who can show them. And that's what a parent is meant to do.
And sometimes
Parents are meant to teach them a manner of things. How to use a fork, how to use a knife, how to open a door if necessary, how to do a number of things, and that includes sex. I mean, having 3 boys, it's the shoe's on the other foot because I have the other half of, we don't have pregnant girls, I have boys that could possibly make girls pregnant. And I've always been aware of that and have always spoken, we have a very open household here, we've always spoken to our children about sex, always. And I've never denied them any answers to any questions that they may have. And that includes when the news puts forward someone who gets raped or teenage pregnancy or the news story of kids sitting in classrooms with sick belly in front of them and having a crash in the school. All those subjects have been broached, and therefore that's why I say to my boys, if you want to have children, fine, great, go have kids and don't use a condom. If you don't want to have kids, you must always use protection when you have them. Now, amongst those things that I tell my kids, speaking as a mother of 3 boys, I am aware of also what sort of girls are out there and how my boys, I would like to see my boys treat these girls so that they are treated well and don't mistreat. See, that's what a parent sort of has to do. And I know, Scott, that you've probably spoken to your girls about something similar.
Well, they have to know you can come to them to talk to them because a lot of kids are afraid to talk to their parents about sex, and that becomes another problem. If you're not...
I never spoke to my parents about sex, ever. Just before I got married, my father came to me and tried to have a conversation. And I said, it's okay, Dad. The nuns took care of it.
But that was a different time. Now things have changed so much, and people are so much more open, and it's readily available. It's all over. It's like we were talking yesterday. It's everywhere. So times have changed.
It's become. I think you mentioned in your post there about promiscuity and how it's increased. And
Well, you know that I think I think part of it has to also do with an absent father, because a lot of these girls, you know, they don't have a father. I didn't have a father growing up, and you're always searching for that guy, you know, to treat you as your father, you know, giving you support and loving you and telling you how beautiful you are. I never had that. That could be another problem.
And that's a
That
problem.
can be.
That's a very big problem with it because a lot of kids that ends up, younger kids that ends up pregnant is because they never had nobody, their mom or dad never showed interest in them when they was coming up. If parents would take time and show interest in their kids, they won't have to look on the streets for the love and stuff that the parents are supposed to give.
Right.
Yeah,
I was always looking for that male role model. I was, you know,
Yeah.
because my father was never there. And
but here's what's funny: the girls that are teenagers that I've known to get pregnant the last few years, they all come from stable, loving families with both father and mother there. That is what's so funny about it.
I want you, because you live in Texas, I want you to
Yes.
talk about how high the teenage pregnancy rate is there.
It's one of the highest rates in the nation. And then when you break it down further, non-Hispanic whites are the lowest rate by far. Non-Hispanic blacks is the next rate. And then Hispanics is fairly high. A majority of them is the Hispanic girls here in Texas that are pregnant teens, which is a very common situation. I've looked at the statistics today, and it's very similar in other states in the South and Southeast.
Has that got to do with religion and beliefs in abortion?
You would think it had to do with religion and beliefs in abortion, but a lot of it comes down to actually just ignorance. Some of it comes down to cultural, because they do not talk to their parents about sex. That's one of the things that they're afraid to talk to. They're always taught that it's a shameful thing that if they get pregnant beforehand. They're even taught you lose your virginity before you're married. You're not going to be able to find a husband a lot of times. And it's usually a lower educated group of people. That's to the point here in the town I'm in. Some years they have a special middle school class just for the girls that are pregnant. There's that numbers.
Yeah, and another thing about it, it's the TV.
I was just going to say, do you think the media plays a role?
Yeah, it has a big
problem.
big role pulling too, because I looked at MTV recently.
Oh,
Those idiots now have a show called Teen Moms. Like,
yeah.
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're promoting it.
Yeah. They are.
This should not be on TV at all.
And these are the kids that are these are their role models. Who grew up with MTV? I grew up with MTV. Okay,
Yeah.
When it was all music videos. Now it's just all
I did too.
And it was just 2 generations ago when Lucille Ball became pregnant. They threatened to take her show off the air because they did not want to show a pregnant woman on TV because it would send the wrong message.
And now look.
And she was happily married. Yeah.
Yeah, now look. It's just crazy.
And part of this I blame also, we've lost the concept of shame in this country. No one is ashamed for things. That is a big part of it.
No, because people are told to be loud and proud. Wrong.
Yeah. Don't let them tell you how to live your life. No matter what you're doing, if it doesn't bother you, it's right. That is taking shame away, taking out of the equation. And to some degree, that is correct. But at some point, there are some fundamental rights and wrongs. Do not kill is a fundamental right. Straight up. I don't think anyone in this room, Hangout, would disagree that committing murder is wrong. But if you take it to that point of if it doesn't hurt anyone, which murder would, but there are some of those set truths, and people have started to ignore those.
Does it seem to you that the message has been lost, the purpose of having children, that it's a bond between two people that love each other for not just the purpose of procreation, but making love can produce a baby, and a baby needs to be introduced into a stable relationship. Is
That
that
has,
More than half of girls that get pregnant are teens, and they're unwed and unintended pregnancies. More than half. So it doesn't even have to do with that doesn't even exist anymore.
Look, having experienced only one occasion, a cousin of mine, I used to go out with her socially, probably when we were mid-teenagers, and she wasn't allowed out as often as I was, but I used to go out with her because I was her older cousin, and she would come out with me. Her dad was pretty happy to do that. Well, my uncles had pretty happy to let her out because she wasn't allowed out very often. But when she went out, she was unstoppable. I just didn't want to go out with her in the end because I was almost embarrassed. But I was terrible. But what resulted was I got a phone call telling me, Rose, I'm pregnant.
Oh no.
And
how old was she?
She was 16.
Oh.
She was 16, and I said to her, well, what are you going to do? She said, well, I have to tell my father, do you want to be there with me? And I said, look, you know what? I'd like to be there with you, but I've always told you to settle down and stop being so like someone who's let out of detention on the weekend. And so this sort of falls on you, and you need to talk to your mum and your dad on your own. I'd like to be there, but I'm not going to take the blame for this, because this was something that happened when she jumped out of her window one night and went off with a boy, and nothing to do with when I went out with her. So, I abandoned ship. I was only like 17 at the time, but looking back, I virtually said, because I remember when we used to go out, I said, well, look, settle down, because you're giving out the wrong message. I was a virgin into my 20s, but I always had boyfriends from the age of 16. And I didn't sleep around because of a few things my mother said to me, not about sex, but about honouring yourself and how you need to look after yourself and how special you are. That's not sex education. That's someone teaching their daughter how to be proud of who they are, put your shoulders back, hold your head up high, and walk with a purpose in your step.
Yeah.
That's self-confidence. So it enabled me to walk proud and not have to worry about getting pregnant, not having to rely on a man to give me confidence, because I had a great father at home that did that. She, on the other hand, my father's brother was her father. He was tight with his reins, and her Australian mother bowed down to what the father wanted. And this girl wasn't held captive, but they had to know every single time she went out, what she did, what time she finished school, what time she started work, which is okay, but they allowed her no social contacts. They didn't her social contact was her going out with me. She met some guy, then they arranged for later on for her to jump out the window and blah, blah. She had sex twice. She got pregnant on the second time.
And Rose, the same description you gave of what her father does, if a boyfriend would do that to her, they'd say he was an abusive boyfriend. That's what's so funny about that. But
yeah,
you've got to...
Rights, yeah. Well, a father has many more rights because...
They do, yes.
Look, I have to parallel that story with someone I met in a hangout a couple of weeks ago.
Can I play off what you just said for a second first? I'm a firm believer that as your children grow, you've got to slowly give them more reins, allow them to make bigger and bigger decisions, help them learn from the decisions they make as they're making them. Let them start with small, non-consequential decisions that really are it's not going to affect their life more than for the next 15 minutes at first when they're young, so that they do know how to go about thinking and making decisions as they grow older. If you hold your thumb down on them and keep them suppressed like he did, when they get loose, they are going to be wild. it happens. It's natural. They're curious. They want to know what's going on, and they get out there and they go wild. So.
Yeah, but you know what, Scott? There's even some people nowadays, our age, my age and younger, who still believe that. I was speaking to a woman not so very long ago, as I was saying, who homeschools her children. Her children are probably under 10 at the moment. No, sorry, I told a lie. One is 12 and there's another one who's under 10. And I was interested to see what sort of homeschooling it was, what it incorporated, because we have homeschooling here, but it's different. The government actually has a control and the criteria, and they have to report to a school scenario once a year in order to a primary school be registered with a primary school. It's a different scenario here in Australia.
Yes.
And she says, oh, no, I homeschool my kids. And I said, okay, so you obviously keep them up to date with current affairs. No, we don't watch the news. I said, well, what are you, so how do they know what happens in the world? Oh, they're not ready for the violence on television.
She's sheltering. That's
Yeah.
I'm so.
Now, is that not another form of abuse of rearing children up to teenage who potentially will be ignorant? I mean, this is what you think about
The world, yeah.
What about the sex part of it? I said to her, you know, because we were in a hangout, I said to her, look, you know, my children have been watching news ever since the age of 5 and 6, where they had, we always sit down, we always have the news on, we always discuss what happened with the news. I never let my kids that young watch the news and have all those nightmares rest with them. We discuss and debrief what happens in the news. So that they're aware of the scum that's out there, of what people actually do to each other, and why they shouldn't trust the guy that stops them on the road and offers them a lolly. And she said, oh, too harsh. That's why my children are schooled at home. Now, I can imagine her daughters, 5 or 6 years down the track, pregnant, easily.
Yeah.
Why? Because she is so sheltered and narrow-minded, she can't see the world for what it is. Not that I'm saying that she has to see things my way. Not at all. I just...
Well, they're not going to be able to function in society if she shelters them.
The day her daughter turns 18 and goes out for the first time and meets a boy, she's going to end up in bed with him because she's not going to know what's going on.
That's horrible. I'm so against that. I don't understand her thinking or her reasoning for that. You have to, you know, you have to limit it. You don't have to expose them to everything, but you have to expose them to some things. You know.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have a book. I have a book, a children's book. It's called Where the Choo Choo Train Goes, and it's a sex ed book. It's a sex ed book for children under the age of 7. And it talks about how the train goes into the... I mean, it looks like a 1950s movie. You know, from Hit of Eternity when they have all that music and all that innuendo happening. But they talk about how the boy is the choo-choo and the girl is the tunnel. And how sometimes on the other end babies come out. So you have to be careful where the boy puts his choo-choo. So it's all baby talk. And I mean, not that I reference this book very often, but I got it there to give them the idea or the visual so that when I spoke to them on their level, they understood.
Okay. Do you all agree that I'm right when I say that the schools has the biggest push on the kids?
Well,
because the kid is at school majority of their life.
I have two thoughts.
More than home, because
but I'm a teacher, and you can't put the pressure and the responsibility on the education system, but they definitely have to take a part in it. You know,
I think that
because some schools has the nerve and the audacity to try to push the kids to have sex before their time.
What school?
No, I couldn't. No way.
I don't think that's illegal.
And they try to cover it up with we're trying to teach them how to have safe sex.
Well, they don't. They're
they
not.
should not never be.
No,
Yes,
they're
of course.
informing them. They're
Right.
educating them. They're not pushing them to have sex. They're just informing them so that they know, the dangers of sex. And it's not just, it feels good. There's STDs and there's consequences. They're not pushing them to have sex, but they're informing them because you have to be informed.
Yeah.
You have to be educated so that you know what the right decisions to make when you're put in that situation.
Yeah, that's why
I
I'm
think-
saying the parents should be doing that.
Well, yeah,
Schools,
the parents are
schools
starting
are
to-
not.
I think
Schools
that
are
the
not
parents
allowed
are
to
the
do that.
support. Yeah, but Jonathan, listen, parents sometimes don't explain things or aren't as comfortable, and they should be, but not so aren't, to explain that. Now, if at school they're taught the basics about it, that's terrific. At least they get some knowledge. Because there should be, in all schools, there should be sex education, how reproduction happens, how it occurs. There also should be incorporated within that some morality lessons that go with it. I mean, and I'm talking about textbooks, so everyone gets the same message. And then at home, that needs to be reinforced and over and over again. Because the school can only teach so much. But
But I'm just saying the schools are.
No, I think the schools need to be more involved because one summer I taught high school, and there was a room within this high school that this one girl would go and she would perform oral sex on the guys that were in high school, and she was no older than probably 14. And the school was horrible. They didn't take any part, and they didn't educate them. They didn't do what they needed to do, and everyone was just going to this room, have sex. And when I heard about it, I told the principal and I told the school resource officer, and nothing was done. And the school needs to be aware of what's going on with their students so that they can place a proper some kind of education program in the schools. This particular district was spending so much money piloting all these different math programs, yet, their kids, the students were just going out and having, sex while school was taking place. I mean, so I definitely think that the schools need to be more aware of what their students are doing. The teachers, the administration, everybody. And everybody needs to be on the same page. The PTA, whoever's involved, parents need to get more involved in their kids' lives. Okay, I understand, the economy is hard, parents have to work, but that's no excuse and it's no reason not to educate your children. It's no reason. You're just, you're not educating your children, and you're sending them out, and kids are growing up so much faster nowadays, and it's, some people think it's because of the hormones in the meat and the vegetables and all this stuff, and the media takes part of it, and kids should not be left in front of the television for hours at a time because then they become role models, and those are the people and the things that kids are looking for to grow up with, and they think that this is right, and they want to be just like them, and that's how problems are going to happen.
That's why the media has the most pull on the kids, because they think, their favorite celebrity doing it. How come they can't do it?
Yeah, but the media is not raising these children. The parents are, and the teachers are educating them. So it's really
that's what I'm trying to bring up. Like,
there are a lot of people that don't know how to speak to their kids. So they say, okay, watch this, and look at this, and look at that. Don't you? I mean, have you not followed the classification of movies? The R, I don't know what your rating's there. We have R, M, M+16. We have all the different G, all the different classifications of movies. And some of the movies that are M+15, which means that a 15-year-old can walk in with an over 18 person, providing they're escorted, sit down, they can watch sex on the screen. As far as I can remember, anything with sex in it was an R rating. And that's because of pressure from movie chain theatres and movie production theatres on government, to lower the age or restricted age so they can get more money for their products. Forgetting totally the moral value of what those categories are there to begin with and what they're exposing these kids to.
Well, and you just hit on something key right there. the governments have given up their responsibility to try to and support some moral values in that country for the best interest of the country in the favor of what is best for business and business interests.
Right.
That's exactly what you're saying there.
It's all about money. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I'm thinking if I ever get involved in the government the way I want, I'm putting the FCC right back to their old standard guidelines. And to the point that a lot of stuff will not be able to get aired on TV at all.
The problem is the courts will tell you you can't at this point.
Well, that's
Yes,
Yes, I can. If
No,
because the only law in the U.S. is the U.S. Constitution. If it's not if it don't violate
that's
that, then
And that's exactly what the courts will tell you is it violates it.
No, I really think that somebody needs to step in and provide education for the parents that don't know how to talk to their kids.
I agree.
There's so much information out there. You know, any parent, knows, especially a parent that had their kid at a young age. They don't want that for their child. I do not want my daughter, any of my daughters, to have kids before they are readily able, mentally, financially, everything.
Candace, religion stops a lot of these people from speaking to their children about what they should be speaking about, sex education.
But that parents they're not actively searching for resources that help them teach and educate their children. And if they wanted to, then it's out there. It's out there. There's no.
It's a two-pronged thing. The schools need to teach the technical side of how to protect themselves and such. The parents need to teach the moral side.
Yes, I absolutely.
Problem is, some of these religious groups do not want anyone teaching them about how to protect themselves.
Because I think that abortion or
because I was going to say Christianity don't think that at all.
getting children outside of marriage is just not spoken. It doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, we don't talk about it. It won't happen, and that's just.
But it is
closing
happening.
their eyes.
That's the moral right. The moral thing to do is if you're gonna have a baby by if a boy gonna have a baby by a girl or a girl gonna have a baby by a boy, it should be they should be because it's because they are in love with them to the point they want to get married with them.
Yes.
It should not be like, oh, I want to have a baby. That's another pain to the world if you do that.
Yeah.
The statistics that you quoted or had a look at both Scott and Candace, do they have any projections listed there?
Projections, no. Actually, the teen pregnancy rate in the United States has been going down slowly over the last 10 years.
But it's still the highest. It's still the
Yes.
highest. That's the scary part. I mean, we have an echo.
Oh,
I'm muting Anthony.
I'm going to mute you, Anthony, because you're echoing. Sorry, Anthony.
We still have an echo.
Anthony,
Anthony,
you're echoing.
Mute your mic, Anthony.
Mute mic or headphones.
You're echoing.
no, it's good now.
Yeah.
I know that I have a friend in England who has a little girl. She's 4 years old, and even he jokes, "I could be a grandfather in 10 years." Because
And he's right.
I hope he is joking, but
It's so
he's
scary.
aware of teenage pregnancy and promiscuity of all teenage girls, and he's preparing himself now for being a grandfather in 10 years' time. He says, "I could be a grandfather in my early 40s, easily."
Yes.
Judging by all the pregnant teenagers I see in my area alone, I was blown away by him saying that. Oh, Anthony, we actually discussed that earlier about the condom issue. We were talking about condoms and how
It's so much more than just using a condom.
Yes.
It really is. It's their mentality. It's their upbringing.
Yeah.
It's everything. And a condom is just part of it because it can break. So it's not
Yeah.
even a
And-
reliable.
Not
and even-
100%.
Even when used perfectly correctly, it's not 100%.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
We use it perfectly correctly. It's only at 92%. 92.
I'm sorry, how much? That
Yeah, it's 92% is going to be safe. The other 8 is not.
It
I
said
The other 8 is
Yeah.
not.
I think it's 99. I do.
Well, that's easy. I'll just Google it.
No, I literally had a
Okay.
teacher, a sex education teacher, just
Well,
that just said it one day, like
well, that doesn't mean your
this is real
sex ed
funny.
teacher was correct.
Yeah, it does. If he's working in the medical field, it does.
Look, if you don't want to have, for teenage pregnancies not to occur, there has to be a rule. You just don't put it in. You don't let
Yeah.
them put it in. Simple.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other
The mo-
ways. If they want to be sexually active, there's plenty of other ways they can do that without having to
Mhm.
have penetration.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's where and that's what some girls just don't know how to say no, and that's where the education comes
Mhm.
in, with parents and educating
Yeah.
their kids, and with schools establishing some sort of
Yeah.
method in their teaching to make sure that the kids they all know something about it. They need a planned lecture or a planned lesson plan that every child, their name is there. Okay, tick, yes, he's seen it. Tick, yes, he's seen it. Experience, yes, 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 yes. So that by the time every child it reaches the age of 13, 14, 15, whatever age is appropriate, I'm not sure over there, but we started it's 6 here at 12 when they go to high school, so that they're mentally aware of all what is going on. Actually, our we don't call it sex ed here. Our physical, what do they call it? Physical instruction, I think they call it here in the boys' school. But they're all taught about reproduction. They're taught how it happens and how to prevent it from happening. And I didn't have to sign the form or anything. It's part of the curriculum. That is part of the curriculum. No gloves, no love. Anthony, you Australian? No. Jan's Australian.
Mhm.
Yeah, so teenage pregnancy is worldwide. You know, it's interesting. You say USA is the highest, UK is the second. Is there any up and coming? Did you see? Happen to see any statistics of any countries up and coming pregnancy rate for teenagers?
No, I didn't pay attention to the other countries.
Actually, Anthony, that's incorrect, because that's where the terminology Foster's flop came from. You drink enough Fosters, you'll never be able to have anything to produce anything. But I don't. There's no answer to teenagers' pregnancy. The only answer I can actually see is education, and not all kids want to listen. As you said, Scott, earlier when you were in that place doing the homework,
Yeah.
and all these kids listening, talking about having sex in the hot tub, how the girls won't get pregnant, and the nurse told them that's rubbish, and they looked at her like she was from another planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's common.
I mean, if a health professional cannot tell them what the truth is, they're not going to learn except by hard knocks, which is a sad state. Unfortunately, that's the way most of them have to learn these days, because they don't want to listen. They think they know better than anyone else. And they will Google around the internet to find a site that will support their beliefs, and then they'll cite that site, period, no matter what the other facts are.
Yeah,
I think that the hot tub scenario means that they think that the heat would kill the sperm.
Yes.
Yeah, and what you just said, Scott, was basically with what is it like? It was you. Is this like a
Yeah.
metaphor for it? Like, if I have a room full of if I had a room of 1,000 people and they was all lined up, and I told the person next to me a secret and told them to pass it down.
Hmm.
By the time they get to the end, it's gonna be a whole nother story.
Now, Anthony,
It would never be the same story.
addressing what you just wrote about being proactive and telling them to use condoms, it depends on who's telling them. If a school tells them to use condoms, that's almost addressing, like Jonathan was saying before, addressing them to say, you should use condoms to stop being pregnant. You have to be. I think you have to be very careful. You see, in that situation, it could happen that a child will take that advice and they fall pregnant. Parents could probably sue misinformation in a class, but like that sort of information is given at school. This is what should be done. It's all in the wording, I think, and the parents need to support it at home. It's correct.
Mm-hmm.
But the best way is abstinence, obviously. Not that anyone
Yes.
condones abstinence or anyone enjoying it.
I think telling any teenager to do anything, they're just going to not do it. You know, I think you have to warn them and tell them, you know, it's not all fun and there's consequences.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're aware of these consequences, the STDs and pregnancy, you know, that's the way to get through to them, and that everything they are reading, like Scott says, on the internet isn't true. You know, you can get pregnant regardless if you're in a hot tub or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Telling them to do anything is just going to create the opposite effect that you want.
Not only do we need to teach them that there are consequences with STDs and pregnancies, but there's a lot of emotional issues that go along with sexual activity and all the issues associated with that, boyfriend, girlfriend, 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 boyfriend, boyfriend, all the combinations, because of her feelings were hurt, his feelings were hurt, whatever. Those things are all the issues they've got to deal with also.
Not just that, Scott. When a person sleeps with someone, they're not just sleeping with that one person. They're sleeping with everyone else that other person slept with before. So if this guy has slept around with at least 20 women in the past month, that girl that happens to be right there and then at that moment is also sleeping with those previous 20 women. Girls. And that's what they don't realise.
Yeah,
Right.
And like parents is like taking the kid's life, and the kids is taking the adult life, and it all boils down to this metaphor that the parents got what the parents is like the horses and the buggies in front of the horse instead of the horse in front of the buggy. Metaphor. It should be the other way around.
But what it comes down to, the teens are going to listen to what other teens are telling them over what the parents are telling them, what healthcare professionals, what teachers are telling them. Because the other teens, their peers, are going to tell them what they want to hear.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that what everyone's about? Everyone's like that. So there has each individual tackles problems and sees the light in different ways.
Yes.
So if you stand in front of a classroom and do sex education, each child is going to take something way differently. Saying, I can do that and get away with it. Or I'm not going to do that, I don't want to even be there. Part of that sex education, I think, should be what can happen further down the line. But, you know what they should include? They should include how much it costs to raise a child. In Australia, it costs $250,000 to raise a child from 0 to 18.
Well, see, it's 500,000, and I saw a graph. They say 500,000 in the U.S., but that's not even an accurate number because they're including child care and they're including private school, and not everybody pays for child care or sends their children to private schools. So I don't even agree with those numbers. It's expensive.
Out of 250,000, I know would be correct. Correct. Because in education alone, I know that I've spent over $60,000 on my eldest child easily.
I have a question for you. I'm not a big fan of child abuse, but I think not informing your children in a way that's going to get it through their skull that there are long-term, multi-generational effects for these teens having children too early. I got to tell you, I mean, today's kids got it easy. Like, if I came home to my parents back when I was a teenager and said, hey, I think I got this girl pregnant, I can't even tell you with what object I would have been hit with first. Okay? Because every object that was not nailed down or a part of the foundation of the house would have been used. Okay?
I agree, and I think we've become desensitized to all this information. So now, if my
I know
son
we're on air, but just
I
to make it
throw anything at him.
just to make it clear, we have guys like Dr. Spock, you know, who
I
made
have
it
this
possible. I know you should use it for firewood. Don't raise your children by it. Even he actually recanted. I don't think people realize this. He actually came out and publicly said, you know what, I really made a mistake. I was wrong, right? So he needs to be hunted down and beaten on cable access. Okay? No, really, because he's screwed up an entire 2 generations, perhaps 3 generations of people who now think, Piper, go to your room, have a timeout, is some form of punishment. Get it through your heads, Caucasian
so
people. Under frickin' stand. Okay? It's okay to beat your kids. All right? Because if you don't beat your kids, they're not going to study.
No,
it's okay to punish your kids, not beat them.
I don't agree with that. If you,
well,
no.
you know, you call it what you want, all right? I'm not telling you to take a closed fist and punch your kid's lights out. That's not what I'm saying. You know, again, common sense, right? But if you don't have a long willow switch in your house, chances are you have a poorly raised child.
No,
Period.
you don't need violence to raise a child to get.
See, but that's the problem.
Because the timeout system don't work.
The timeout system don't work. You ask any ethnic kid, and we think Caucasian kids have it easy.
Well, every child is different. You can't generalize and say it doesn't work.
Well, but I think you can, and I think that's the problem,
No,
is that Caucasian people think that you can't generalize, and so as a result, you have an, and I hate to be racial, but I'm really not trying to be, but the truth hurts. Ethnic people tend to use wooden spoons, spatulas, extension cords, whatever, to make sure that their child obeys. Okay, because if the child doesn't learn from a very early age to obey their parents, they are not going to obey later when they're 15, when they have all those hormones raging in them. You can
So you're telling
me in 5,000 years of Asian history, or you can believe Dr. Spock. It's up to you. But we've seen the results of your way of parenting children. It's freaking wrong.
Anthony, so that method works when all the minority groups in the United States are the ones with the highest pregnancy rates? And the Caucasian rate is lowest? No, actually they're higher than
no, they're not.
whites
I
also.
promise you, Scott.
I got the statistics today.
You look at Korean American teen pregnancies, and it's almost 0. You look at Chinese American pregnancies, it's a little higher, but still almost 0. You look at Japanese American pregnancies, and it's still almost 0. You know, you look at Middle America Caucasian. You know, now if you include Vietnamese, Thai, you know, you might have slightly larger numbers. But stick to Far East. Japan, China, Korea, like Americans.
Yeah,
and
the bad part about it, when the courts start saying, "Oh, is it illegal to whoop your kids and all of that?"
Illegal here.
Baloney. From there.
You can't hit a child. I mean, you know, my mother was a shoe expert, and my mother broke wooden spoons over my brother and myself. That doesn't mean I hit my children. I smack my children. I smack them on their bums. I put them over my knees when they were small, and I smack them.
If you let
Good for you. What are we arguing about?
And I smack on the inside of their hands. If they touch something that's posted, I said no, and they're still doing it. I take the inside of their hand, and I smack their hand. But I'm very conscious about not smacking their head or smacking their leg.
Don't beat up your kid.
No, but in the court system here, if you do that, it will be considered child abuse.
Oh, I know, and that's why I fully plan to raise my kid out in the middle of the wilderness somewhere.
Ever since the courts categorized stuff like that,
let me tell you, Jonathan, hang on. Let me tell you, my kid wanted to cross the road. We have trams here, and when we lived in the inner city, we have trams here. And he wanted to cross that road. There was a pigeon on the other side of the road. I caught him once. I caught him twice. The third time, I heard a car screech, right? I'm holding his hand, and he's running. He's trying to get through. And I turned round, and I picked him up. This is in the middle of the street. I picked him up, and I sat down in the gutter, like on the sidewalk, and I pulled down his pants, and I smacked his ass, right? And a woman said to me, "You can't do that, it's abusing your child." And I turned around to her and I said, "You tell me when I'm sitting in a cemetery or a hospital whether I can be smacking my child."
So my question to you then is why are you arguing with me? You obviously do exactly what I'm advocating. Keep doing it.
No, my kids, can I just tell you, you smack your children. We smack our children when they were young. We didn't hit them, we smacked them. Big difference. Open palms, backside, and in a hand. Never anywhere else. I haven't had to smack my children from the age of 9. My children are all well behaved, and they're polite. They shake hands, and they're not vulgar. They're not rude. They're not nasty, and they're considerate boys not because I smacked them.
Okay, well, getting back to what Scott said earlier, which I think is a fallacy, it says 80% of teenage pregnancies are unintended. Utah's teen pregnancy rate is high, as well as southern teen pregnancy, but these areas are where women still get married prior to the age of 20 with some regularity, although this is changing. I submit to you that both states don't have a lot of Asians in them. The Deep South and Utah.
We have a lot of Asians here, Anthony.
Right, but I mean, how many of them are actually getting, do you think it's more teen pregnancies are Asian as opposed to Caucasian?
Asian. I mean, I don't have any access to girls. Actually, I do. My son has friends that are Asian girls. And there are Asian boys that go to my son's school. They are conscientious. They're polite. They're not abusive. And they're great students.
You just supported his fact.
Exactly. Now, if you think that we are conscientious because we are genetically so, you're crazy. Okay?
I know that these kids at home have it hard. Like,
yes, we do.
They are held tight by their parents as in terms of what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. I don't know about sex education. Possibly they could be educating their children.
Yeah, it was simple. If
not.
you get somebody pregnant, you're dead. I mean, that was it. My mother looked at me in the most serious manner possible and said, "I don't know what I'll hit you with. I have no idea, but don't you ever come home pregnant."
Well,
simple.
Times have changed, and
Anthony, would you buy that Hawaii's got a large percentage of Asians?
Japanese.
Polynesians. I don't consider them Asian, no. Sorry.
Well, the CDC does, and their rate, live births per 1,000 is more than twice as high.
Right. Earlier I said that we should segregate Far East Asians from, Polynesians, from Southeast Asians, etc. And there's a reason for that. I think amongst Southeast Asians, there's a lot less Confucianism and a lot less cultural, social pressure on the children when you're raising them. They're a lot more free-handed, frankly. A lot more like, the Caucasians. In Hawaii, there's a lot more, I don't know what there's a lot of weed smoking in Hawaii, frankly, and so I suspect even the Asians are tainted there. But if we were to look at it across the U.S., I think I would be correct. That there's far less Asian teen pregnancy than there is white teen pregnancy.
But these people could be educating their children, not just. But that's a moral education right there.
Yes.
Telling these kids, don't you be getting pregnant because you don't do that sort of stuff. At this time in your life, you don't want to be getting pregnant and you don't want to be having babies because you have a whole future in your life. You have to, you know what the Asian focus is? Getting ahead in life, making sure they secure their future. Now, pregnancy doesn't come into it. You have kids when you're in your mid-20s to late 20s. Having sex and falling pregnant is failure. Now,
It is.
children, Asian kids don't do failure. They just don't.
We don't.
The culture does not accept it.
That's right.
You know, you virtually need a university degree to work in McDonald's in Asia now because there are so many highly educated kids. And they're all high achievers. And that's the way that culture promotes. Now, we are more focused differently. We're focused differently. I'm European, right? And we focus on the family and moral. We don't, not as high as the Asian people are, but that's the way they are. That's their culture.
Yes,
So
but our culture values money. Our culture values money. That's the problem.
Yes.
So
We don't value
what
education.
culture do you think is better at raising children? Asian culture? In terms of results, okay? You clearly stated that the Asian parenting model is better in terms of results, right?
Well, I don't know. It depends on how you determine those results to be. Mentally, these kids are not as warm and open as my kids are, but they're lovely, they're polite, they're go-getters, they want to, you know, get the university degree in computer tech and physics and all the rest of it. They're motivated because of their culture. Do I want that for my kids? No. I'd rather my kids are happy the way they are rather than being that way. So it depends on what you determine to be raising the kids. For me, I'll be happy if my kids get through their teenage years, into their 20s, and not make any girls pregnant. Because I have
Rose,
three boys.
can I ask you something? What do you call an Asian kid in a room full of white kids?
Banana?
Boss.
Boss. No.
Yeah.
No, I got a girlfriend who's Asian, and she calls herself
I guess my point is, as long as you raise your kids that way, and Asians raise their kids their way, it's highly likely your kids are going to be working for Asian kids. I don't know how to put it. It's flabbergasting to me that you can admit that their model is better, functionally better.
Anthony, you're a bigoted piece of shit, and I hope you rot in hell.
Okay? You admitted it.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh no.
And now you're telling me it's not better. Okay?
No,
I
no,
want
no.
everyone to do it the same way.
When it comes to money
Candace.
and high achievers, that's what
Candace.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking
Excuse me.
about
You cannot put this on YouTube.
Why?
It's already on air.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, and
What just happened?
You know, Scott was having a bad day. It's okay. I don't.
Yeah, he
forget about it.
can't
Let's
do
move
it.
on.
She gotta cut it.
All right,
You know.
I gotta end it, guys. Thank you for.
Yeah, I deal with YouTube on a regular, so I would know. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you.
Well, what's done is done. I mean, he's already said what he said.
Yeah, she can cut it. She can cut it.
Alright,
Won't be
guys,
published.
I gotta go. Thank you for coming.
Wow.
Yeah.